This video is brought to you by ArchiTech Network and our online platform of courses where you can learn from world-class architects working in some of the practices that you can see in these videos. You can learn Grasshopper, Revit, Rhino Inside, Twinmotion, and some of our new courses on AI, and lots more courses that we're delivering over the next year. So please, if you like this video, check out our courses in the link below so we can keep bringing you more content like that.
What's up, guys, and welcome back to another ArchiTech tour here on the ArchiTech Network. Today, we're in front of Heatherwick Studio, and we're going to go in and have a look at some of the work these guys are doing. We're going to be talking to the head of Geometry and Computational Design, their immersive specialists, and hear about how these guys are using design technology in the practice of Heatherwick. So I'm super excited to see this one. Their office already looks super cool. Amazing facade. Looks like they can open up this door in the summers. So I'm mega excited for this one. Let's go in and check it out. All right, guys, we're here with Pablo from Heatherwick. He's head of Geometry and Computational Design, and he's going to be showing us around. Thank you so much for inviting us in and showing us around the place. I'm super excited by the space. It looks incredible.
Absolutely. No, thank you for having been here, Oli. Hopefully, we're gonna have some time to kind of walk, along the studio. I'll show you a few projects, and you can ask me whatever you want.
Awesome. Can't wait. Let's jump in.
Excellent. The first thing to know is that this is our new space, so we're calling it Making House. You may or may not know that the studio is all about making and making our kind of spaces more human. And we believe that this space, in a way, represents a little bit of that. We moved in last September, and although we have moved in, we're still working on this space. Okay, so hopefully today we'll be able to see our main floor, the workshop, and some of the working spaces.
How big are you guys now? And you've also always been in King's Cross, right? Heatherwick has also been kind of like based around here, right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, King's Cross is the home of the studio, and also Thomas's. So Thomas lived just a few minutes away from here. So the whole history, basically almost 30 years of history of the studio, have been, in this area. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's rolling.
Mm-hmm. So, well, you see that we're surrounded by, objects,
so many cool
models.
many cool models.
I think most of them speak about, the history of the studio and tell us a little bit, little stories about a specific material or a process, that we've been kind of fascinated by at some point. And of course, reflect some of our past and current projects. So this is a project that we're currently working on.
Okay.
And you see that the facade is quite special.
Yeah.
If you can see that machine over there, that mangle. So this machine here was used to produce the facade of a project in Aberystwyth, which are some artist studios. Okay, so it's an old project from the studio, and what comes out of there? Imagine if you're working with tin. So all the effort went to the facade of these studios, and this is a little mock-up of kind of the result that comes from that. So in a way, it speaks about the process. So we needed to design how this building was going to be made.
I think we saw that in one of your petricuches. You guys were kind of like simulating the crushing. That's pretty cool.
And it's cool because the scale of it obviously was a very small scale. The model you pointed out, it's much larger scale. So we're talking about tens of thousands square meters of facade.
Wow.
So really, really large scale. And when we approach a project like that one, we cannot think on a process like this one anymore. It will take just forever.
Yeah.
And the scale then needs to be rethought. So for instance, it tells another story through this model. That is actually a really good collaboration between the computational team and the making team. Where we take kind of some inspiration from a past project, but now we have to rethink in how do we modularize the system and how to be exploring different scales. So this is still kind of a small scale mock-up, right?
Yeah.
And that's been done in the workshop. So each of these pieces is going to be much larger, but it's not only about the material anymore. It's about how the material becomes a module, how these modules come together, and so on.
And what's this? This is also kind of.
So this is just a visual mock-up. You see. Yeah. So at the larger scale, it will become a performative mock-up as well. But these are the type of models we produce to kind of to make sure that what we're designing can be built.
And it's kind of like modular in that the ridges always meet between them.
So this is following something that we call AIRO pattern.
Yeah.
And it's a pattern that, yes, it's repeatable, yet it's very hard to kind of guess.
Yeah.
So this is the workshop. You see, so it's a linear workshop, and it has some areas to work with wood, some areas to kind of work on a more detailed scale for models with different materials, and then it goes, to the kind of digital prototyping lab, which is behind you now, that we'll see in a moment. So I will say it goes from more purely physical, bandsaws and stuff like that, to slightly more digital.
Traditional.
And then here we have, the laser cutters.
Yeah.
We have only one 3D printer at the moment here, but we have a ton more downstairs. I'll show you later, probably.
Do you feel the 3D printing side has made a big impact for you guys?
It's one of these things that it became kind of second nature. And again, they all serve different scales, Yeah. So we use a lot of 3D printing for working on smaller scale, for models. But you will see now that we have other tools that help us to kind of work at larger scales. Yeah. Here you see we have our CNC machine.
CNC, super nice.
What's
up, guys? How's it going?
So we have part of the making team here. Jeff is our head of making. I don't know what they're doing, but I'm sure something really exciting.
I'm sure that's not true.
It will be exciting.
Yeah.
Exactly. But you can see how the tools we use, are not only focusing, or they not only focus on the small scale, and visual scale models, but also they focus a lot on, how we build stuff, and so we use digital fabrication tools.
Yeah. Do you find you're spending a lot of time, like the computational side of things, with the workshop crew, so to speak?
Yeah, so we try. I think the premise in the studio is that every designer here, should also make, and that we will kind of like. We obviously kind of live in a world, in a kind of digital world in a way, and we're always kind of running out of time, and so that means that sometimes it happens that designers will stay on their computers and then will not come and prototype, and we try always to encourage that to happen. And one of the things that have worked quite nicely is to pair, let's say, a maker with a designer, or a computational designer, so they can work together, and that's a really good example of the outcome, where someone from the workshop is going to be advising us, and hey, have you tried this process or this material, or this finishing, and we will be working on kind of the geometry, and kind of translating the complexity of a project or whatever digital model into something that is buildable, or at least ready to be modeled.
Yeah.
So this is the wood shop.
Yeah.
And you see it's the one that faces the street, which is quite cool because for a lot of people that lives in the area, sometimes wonder about this otherwise kind of new spaces that means like what is going on there, and then they can just like look through the windows like, oh wow, they're making stuff, and I think it helps us feel more connected in a way, with the area.
Super nice.
One of the nice stories in terms of a model that becomes reality, which is really the way we do stuff in the studio, so that we only aim to design things that can be built. And so, for instance, this is an early model of a pavilion designed by Thomas while he was still at school. So it's a, it's got an amazing history. But what you see there is actually the built version of this. And again, so it was a lot about craft and geometry, but back in the day, it wasn't as easy as it is for us today to 3D model something and use Grasshopper to solve absolutely everything. And so Thomas worked with an engineer called Aaron Chadwick, and he was an early adopter of CAD software. Okay. And so this pavilion was actually 3D model back in the day.
Wow.
And you can see it; it's quite nice. Yeah. So we can put here, then cool. Here.
And so this was this project at uni.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an incredible project.
And now it's a meeting room basically, so you can.
Your super confidential.
Exactly.
You can shut things up.
But yeah, it's one of our meeting rooms.
That's incredible that this was his student project. Like amazing details of the connection of it opening.
But I think it's that commitment to craft, and understanding how things actually become reality.
Actually get built.
Yeah, it wasn't just like a large-scale model.
Yeah, that's amazing.
This is an extrusion, and I think again, is one of these early explorations about process and what happens if you extrude a piece of material through kind of a giant die, literally. And the unexpected bits, that in a way, I don't know, have kind of the soul of the object in the end. The end piece is here. So when you stop the machine, so this is the last bit of the churro,
That's amazing.
that comes, And so they will usually stop it, and to make it perfect. And but then when they realize how beautiful this bit was, it's like no, don't cut it, just leave it a little bit. So this is the actual.
This is the actual.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the die, So you can see the scale of it, So, the section of the chair, is that you have in the die.
Yeah.
These are kind of the processes that kicked off in a way computational design in the studio because you can make them, but if you don't have the actual tool to make them, you can simulate them.
I was going to say, at what point do you simulate versus just like let's see what happens? And
it all depends on the scale.
Yeah.
So the mangle I just showed you. So when we wanted to work at a larger scale, one of the approaches we took was to simulate the process of a sheet of metal going through that. So what we modeled that machine in 3D, and then we just fed a metal sheet. In Houdini.
How was the simulation versus the?
It was pretty close, but then, although the simulation may be close, what you're after, sometimes it's not necessarily that. So one thing is the visual effect, and then is the actual geometry of what you're designing. So this mold is, it's from our project called KGX1. So this is a collaboration between BIG and ourselves. For the Google's London headquarters, which is just down the road. So hopefully you can see it from outside the studio.
We'll
from
swing by some B-roll shots.
Yes, from Kings Road. I think you can see it. On this project, for instance, we've been really focused on what happens at the ground floor level. So really trying to understand how the building communicates with the people. And finding the human aspect of a project like this. This is a really large scale building and very long, So finding that relationship between the people that is walking by, and that is going to be there, outside the building every day, it's been kind of crucial in the design for us. Yeah.
That's very nice that you've created these like little moments of, fun little, almost like pavilions inside of it, public spaces.
Exactly.
Super nice. Well, did you guys also work on the roof part as well?
Yeah. I mean, it was a 50-50 split, and I don't think it was more about wanting only working on one specific area, you know. But yeah, for sure. I mean, the rooftop it's an important bit, you know. But again, you have one public space, well, one open space that is going to serve the people that goes to work there, and then another area of the building that is hopefully going to kind of speak more to anyone that goes there, you know. And the King's Cross is incredible. I mean, the whole development has changed so much. There's so many people that walks by.
Yeah.
You know.
So you go by your building onto another one of your buildings,
Yard.
the Coal Drop Yard. So
yeah.
You've definitely made your mark in the area.
Yeah, I wish we had one of the Coal Drops models here.
I think it's in wherever it is now, Shanghai.
Shanghai, yeah. Okay.
Maybe last two maybe would be the seed.
Oh yeah.
Is it the seed thing? Obviously that's
the seed pavilion. So a really cool thing about this car is that you can see, you know, it looks like a little kind of living room or, you know, like a meeting space, and it's because the seat actually can flip, you know, so you can face, you know, forward or backward, and so the steering wheel actually disappears, and then you can turn back, you know, and enjoy a nice time with
people. That's really driven by the automation of cars, right?
Absolutely. So this is a car that, you know, is a fully electric car that, you know, will be hopefully will drive himself.
Yeah.
This car also has an incredible feature, which is that it absorbs CO2.
Really?
Yeah. And it has a filter inside and purifies it.
Wow.
You know, and so what comes out from this car is basically oxygen.
Wow. And of course, we've got the Sea Pavilion. I mean, this is like one of your guys' iconic projects.
I think this was the project that really helped us, you know, going from kind of a small studio to a studio that could be much more ambitious and go for projects, you know, that have a really large impact. You know?
Yeah.
It's really special for us, and you see this kind of little tips here. Yeah. So those are seeds.
Each one's got the seed.
You know, and and the seeds come from a seed bank from Kew Gardens, which has the largest library of seeds in the world, actually. Wow. So it really represents kind of the hope, you know, for humanity. So the studio has been, I mean, the studio's been always interested in the impact that it can create in cities, and particularly in the people that live in the cities, you know. And for some years now, Thomas has been working on a book that talks a little bit about this and really reflects on what has happened with modernism in cities and how that affects kind of architecture, you know, and what was the actual impact in people. In some ways, you know, losing detail, and in some ways, kind of in a way, opening the opportunity for us to rethink how we do design, right? Yeah. So the campaign really wants to encourage more joyful spaces, and we believe that, you know, complexity and detail, visual complexity, helps people well-being. Yeah. And we've been working with researchers, neuroscientists that can actually back this, wow. and so we're really focused now in implementing as much as we can kind of this new way of approaching architecture, and hopefully engaging more to do it. You know, so we can only do a certain amount of buildings in the life of the studio. But we believe that, you know, we can convince more people to actually produce good architecture, right?
It's a great book as well. I've been brushing up on it before we came here. Sammy, you've been reading it as well.
Nice.
Super easy read and like really interesting.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
It touches also a little bit on how we implement these things, you know, and you'll see there are many strategies in the book, but also tools. You know, so we've been working, for instance, on a web app basically that's going to be freely available to anyone that you can use to kind of test how complex a building is, and hopefully help you along the design process. We're calling it the boringometer.
Ooh, okay, we'll talk about this later. This sounds cool.
Yeah, a little island. I mean, you can really see the love we put in the stuff we make.
Yeah.
Right. I think that care really help us not only to come up with design that hopefully will have will be good for the people, but also help us in kind of motivating everyone in the studio.
Yeah.
Just to care a lot about what we do.
It was one. It opened when I was in New York. Unfortunately, I just left as it was open. I couldn't get a ticket, but we should be going back this year, and we'll give it a tour.
It's looking lovely. I mean, I was there for the last time just a few months ago, and it's incredible to see. I mean, it's so nice to see people using it. Especially on a project like this that came just the brief. The original brief was just for an object that will be. I think it will work as well as a little amphitheater.
Yeah.
And we turned it into a park for the city.
Yeah.
And this, it turned out as this little kind of hidden park.
Hidden gem. It's also quite a. You say it's quite a nice computational product as well, right? You can see there's obviously the computational logic of some kind of surface that you have that maps out the park, and then you've got, I think you call them pods, is it? Or the pods. It's a product I've seen a lot of people try on YouTube, but I don't know if anyone's like nailed it.
What is really interesting is that all the pods look different.
Each one is.
And some of the interesting tricks we use in terms of geometry was, again, using the AIRO pattern. So the same pattern you saw on that facade was used, let's say, in plan here. So the arrangement in plan for all the pods is following a regular pattern. And and I think computation really helped on this because it's all prefab, right? So it was prefabricated in upstate New York, and then it traveled, south, through the river, and then it was,
plonked in place.
You can see some of the images in the back.
I think it's a really nice point about like computation. I think a lot of people look at this and it's every single one is unique, and you have this unlimited budget to build these things, but actually the secret sauce is really how do you make these look like they're unique, but they're also in some way repeatable and modular, and that's how you get them built. And
there's never enough budget.
There
are always incredible challenges that you have to kind of go through and solve, as part of the design process. I think adding that intelligence and perseverance in the process is so key. To get from kind of idea to something built.
I think that like initial process to create something that looks like that for scripts is one thing, but then optimizing it and rationalizing it to something that is repeatable and buildable, that's where the magic happens.
I mean, with kind of the current modeling skills, I'm sure people can model this in half an hour. But definitely you cannot build it in half an hour. So that's also part of computational thinking. But it needs to happen, along the whole process.
Perfect ending point, I think. I saw these from a distance, but
these are the blue stairs.
Are these all the Heatherwick?
These are we.
This is us.
So this is us. So this installation was created by one of our makers. So there's something actually very nice that we do in the studio, and when you turn 8 years in the studio, you can take a 3-month sabbatical.
Oh wow!
And that is fully paid. And one of our makers, Eric, went on sabbatical and work on this piece, and it kind of not only represents who we are in a way, but also talks about how diverse the studio is. So you'll see there are some places that are larger, and they represent kind of the diversity we have in the studio.
All right, Pablo, thank you so much for the tour. I mean, it's amazing to see the space. And I think we're interested to jump into a little more about what you do at Heatherwick, and maybe for the audience that are kind of new to what you do and your role at Heatherwick, maybe describe your role as head of geometry and computational design and what that entails in the office.
Yeah. So, so I'm Pablo Zamorano, and so I've been in the studio for about 8.5 years now. And I have been working in kind of both, design side of things, and then also helping on the technology side of the studio. And since 2018, more or less, we kind of moved into a model where the studio could grow more, and we started, the computational design team, which I lead. My role as a head of the group is first think more strategically about how we use technology in the studio to, aid for design, always with a focus, obviously, on kind of human-centered design, not just to make us more, let's say, productive or effective in what we do, but really to understand how the future looks like for the studio and for design kind of processes.
How big is the computational team that you have right now?
So we have a core team, let's say, which is about 5 people. And then we have a larger team of another between 10 and 15 that work with us in a kind of a more part-time basis, spending most of their time in projects and then part of their time working on applied research.
So it's like kind of covert designer, computational specialist, chameleon.
Absolutely. I think there's no, if there's something that actually works quite well in the studio, is that there's no one single rule that can be applied to everyone. I think we have different models of working with different people, and we do that not only for the computational team, but also across kind of other team as well.
Cool. Maybe talk about not only like the role of design technology as a whole in the office, like how do you work as a computational team in terms of aiding each project? Like the people come and just, tap you on the shoulder and I need a script or something. And also how you work with other DT disciplines like BIM or immersive and fabrication.
Yeah. Again, I think we have, let's say, different workflows. The whole team work helping projects, and I think the role of the computational designer started from having someone that has kind of a good understanding of geometry and people that could deal with complexity, I think, in a kind of a comfortable way. But I think in essence is someone that is good at problem solving, and it can be resourceful. So everyone in the team can not only work on kind of 3D modeling, really crazy designs, but also having really good conversations with our technical design team, and pairing with some of our makers to prototype kind of the designs, and that's one side of the role. Within the core team, the smaller group that works with me, we focus more on applied research, and sometime we'll be, let's say, exploring new technologies and emergent technologies, but also we will be developing our own tools. So we are big Rhino users, for instance, but it's not always enough, and we go to a point where we went from kind of super users to start kind of customizing our tools to building our own, and so we have some of the team that is actually developing software for us, even for other things, to explore kind of new areas of design and communication. In the way we work with other DT departments, so if you were to think, we focus on digital design. We also have a team of people that focus on communication and how we communicate. So they'll be visualizing our designs. That will work slightly different. Again, with a small core team that will be kind of consulting in a way teams for rendering, animation, and Unreal experiences, let's say, or VR. And then a larger team that it's meant not to be necessarily a team, but actually to spread across every single project, and hopefully motivate most of the designers to engage with visualization. I mean, nowadays it's just so easy, but with tools like Enscape and stuff like that, but they will always be working kind of closely with one of the computational designers, and then a delivery team, right? So the digital delivery team in the studio, or the BIM team, it will also kind of work within teams, although they are a separate team. They will start working from, let's say, SD onwards on a project, and if you think kind of the intensity in terms of the work in the computational side and the delivery side, sometimes are kind of these curves that cross, So in the beginning you have a peak, in kind of exploring design, optioneering, and using whatever tools you have at hand, to be, to help you being creative and having kind of a good platform to explore as many options as you can, and then that kind of start going down a little bit, as the project progress, and then the BIM curve kind of kicks in, and goes up. One of the interesting things about this place, though, is that we never stop designing, and so there's never, so that although the curve may be decreasing, on the computational design side, it never finishes, and it just carries on, through construction.
Yeah. Do you find that are there certain tools like Rhino inside that help you a little bit with that role of still utilizing computation in the design stages, but you also need to document it at the same time? Is that something that's...
Yes, absolutely. I mean, interoperability is one of these things that, to me, is one of the topics that was supposed to be solved many years ago.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's incredible that we still kind of talk about it, and it's still, a challenge.
Yeah.
Of course, we use tools like Rhino Inside. We use MKS BIM. I think those are the two main ones.
Yeah.
That we're using in the studio, and they really help us, to use the tools for what they are good at, and so early stages we'll kind of push the design side of things on Rhino, and then we will use Revit to document, as seamlessly as we can, but that's kind of our workflow.
Yeah. Follow-up question to, you've already named a few programs that you use, but one question I'm asking everyone that we do the tour is to give a brief overview of the software that you use. You've already mentioned Rhino and Revit, but give us like a brief overview of the tools you use. I know you've also mentioned Houdini and things like that. So give us an overview of what you're using at Heatherwick.
I mean, so this is one of the topics where we always wanted to talk about ourselves as software agnostic.
Yeah.
But in reality, we love using Rhino, and Rhino is still our main design tool. But through the design process, and especially I think in the beginning of the process, we try to use as many tools as we can, or the tool that we may find to do the job. Sometimes it's Rhino using Grasshopper and some physics simulation tool as Kangaroo and other like that. But sometimes we'll use Houdini, or we'll use similar tools, like Blender, for instance.
Yeah.
But I think generally speaking, Rhino is our base, kind of design tool. I think one thing that change in terms of how we used to design to how we do it now is related to how we would visualize, what we do. And I think Enscape, it's been a big part of that process, So the fact that we have, let's say, a quick way of visualizing our design so quickly, just like with a click of a button, I think has changed our workflow quite a bit. And we move away from other tools like V-Ray or back in the day, even Maxwell. In
the good
the
old
studio.
days of
Exactly, and so we can have a designer, working perfectly fine just with Rhino and Enscape, and then when we get kind of deeper into other areas, I think other software kind of appears. So when we want to take, another thing to mention is that one of the cool things about Enscape is we brought somehow the experience, back into the process, So it's so easy just to plug a VR headset, just using Enscape, that it opened a new opportunity for us to kind of review the design in different ways. Before that we were using, and I'll explain a bit more later, but we were using other XR headsets. So we have a HoloLens, for instance, that we were using. But now it's just like very easy to use VR, and just through Rhino and Enscape. So it's quite nice. But yeah, when we want to take to the next level, the experience to the next level, then is when we start using tools like Unreal, for instance. Unreal Engine, we've been using it for many years now. And we have, Silvia, our kind of immersive media specialist in the studio, who is really good at bringing kind of our design into really nice experiences, using Unreal. And then we also have people that specializes in visualization, and we have small team of visualizers that use 3D Max, and they will do renderings and animations. And we have also people that can work on kind of drawings, so do really nice illustrations. So we have Olga in the team, and she's an amazing illustrator and really brings kind of the soul back into what we visualize. So it's really nice. And again, all these skills, I think we try to kind of push them away from the silo, let's say, and then kind of spread across the team. And I think it's also similar with the BIM team. So we use Revit is our main delivery tool, which of course we keep kind of connected to this other software, but with a clear kind of focus on drawing production and coordination. So those are kind of the main things we ask the tool to do. For anything else, we have scripting.
Yeah, it sounds like the pretty standard bundle of what everyone uses, which is why we ask, because I think there isn't much ambiguity in, like, we all kind of generally design in Rhino, utilizing Grasshopper as much as we can. I think it's interesting you guys are using Blender and Houdini as well for some of that kind of specialist stuff that you're doing. But generally, we're all using the same stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think there's one other question we're asking people is for computation, but also other DT disciplines, how do you go about training the designers and upskilling them? Do you find, like, when new people join, you take them through some kind of boot camp? How do you up the level of everyone in the office?
Yeah, I mean, so we try to get people that is willing to learn in the studio. I think that's most of the time more important to us than actually bringing someone that will be an expert on a specific software. But that means that we do invest, some of our efforts in helping people to skill up. So we do in-house training where we will use some people from our teams to help skill up, some other teams in the studio. Sometimes we will bring people from outside to run kind of classes. And some more times we will use kind of flat platforms, So now we're using HN, right? So we, we constantly explore different ways of kind of helping people to learn the skills, And I think, and the other thing is just the kind of the help that everyone gets through other people in their teams, So we try to have people with a good amount of skills, on every single project that help us to skill up, everyone else.
In terms of computational design, obviously making is a huge process here. How does computational play a role in that in terms of, I think you talked about before, simulating how things will bend and move. Maybe talk about how computational side works with the making side.
Yeah. So yes, making it is a big, one of the central parts of what we try to explore in the studio, and I think computational design helps in making us, in a way, as a really good tool to translate something that it's, let's say, render ready, and maybe super complex and not necessarily fabrication ready or prototyping ready, And so we use rationalization tools to actually help us to, let's say, bring our designs into something that can be prototyped and then made. I think that process always involves some kind of brain power. You have to start thinking about how you put things together, and then you have to rework your models. And so one thing that we like to do is to have one computational designer, one designer, pair with one of our makers, and so they can have a conversation about how you model something digitally and how you model something physically. How the machine you like to work with may work or not, for your purposes, and then how the material will react, to what you want, and so on. And you can run different kind of iterations, right? So I think we try to have, let's say, someone from the making team kind of helping the design side, along. And yeah, I think computational design is what is the glue, in the process. It's also helpful when you want to explore something new, So we make a lot in the studio, right? Yeah. So we may have 3 or 4 prototypes of a lift button, for instance, that they are nicely cast. Some of them will be 3D printed, some, will be made in a different way. But we may have 40, different designs. Yeah. And then we can use something like the HoloLens, and we use AR, to kind of project the other options, side by side, and you will never lose the sense of scale, So the value of making is always about bringing the human scale into the process, and so you don't get lost in the kind of in the screen where things, they don't have size. AR help us to also bridge that gap in a way, and we try to pair it with making. We've done some really good kind of explorations with the makers where they have used the HoloLens also to assemble things, quicker. So yeah.
Is there a area in the design process you see computation being used the most, whether it's like, let's say, initial concept form finding, iteration, optimization, or connecting with that making process? Is there somewhere you see you guys having the biggest impact?
So again, I think in terms of intensity, possibly early stages. Yeah. In terms of real use of computational design, I think it goes far beyond that. Yeah. And I think there's, we continue using it till the very end. And it's not all about modeling, right? It's not all about kind of the geometry, right? So so we also use computational design to run environmental analysis to all our projects, and to explore kind of have a different, help you have kind of a more holistic understanding of your design. So yeah, these things we keep kind of running until the projects have kind of developed quite a bit, and also bringing kind of custom analysis. Sometimes so we don't have a picture here, but for the Google headquarters in California, so all these kind of roofs that and you're thinking like, where is the water, right? What happens with the water on that roof? And those were little bits of coding that we put together just to understand how the water will kind of go down down the roof, and then we could actually use it. So sometimes those simulations help us a lot to work with complexity, but also understand things that may not be kind of purely geometric problems.
All right, of course, I can't leave without asking you the question everyone wants to know, which of course AI has had a huge influence in the industry. It's obviously changed parts of practice. How is AI being used at Heatherwick right now?
Yes, AI. So we've been kind of working with AI in the studio for over a year now. So I wouldn't say that we're kind of new to the technology, but it's not that it's ubiquitous either. But I think it will. Because we try to understand how it worked and experiment with it, quite early on. We managed to understand some of the key values for us, and although in the beginning it looked like, well, this is the technology that is gonna kind of ended up designing for us. I think we managed to put it in a place where is the technology that actually help us be more focused on the human part of it. So designers can actually use these tools now to bring their designs to life, more effectively, quicker, more efficiently, So we develop our kind of custom AI tools. We've been working with kind of a custom image generator, for some time now, based on our kind of 30 years of experience in the studio, using our library, and we're keep developing, so it can be used for more and more people, across the studio, while also kind of engaging with, let's say, off-the-shelf solutions, right? So I mean, I would surprise if someone is not using, ChatGPT on their web browsers at the moment. I mean, it's just part of the Office package, right? So, and the same with Photoshop, right? So, if you have Photoshop, you have access to AI. So we're using it for photoshopping, and then using tools that help us to get kind of a reference, very quickly, design reference. So what other people kind of use Pinterest for, we can use whatever tool, DALL-E, Image Journey, or our kind of in-house tool, and then really to go quickly from kind of a sketch to a render, I think is just so useful. So those are kind of some of the examples where we're using it. We're also developing a custom GPT tool that kind of uses, read through our data and customize kind of search results for us. The BIM team has been exploring that, and they're using it for BIM documentation at the moment, and we're kind of scaling up to incorporate eventually, most of our data.
Do you think you're at a point where you may get an AI specialist? Would you recruit for an AI specialist at this point? At the moment, it's kind of something you're experimenting with in the computational side, obviously the BIM team. Do you see that more? Maybe not just in Heatherwick, but as an industry-wide.
So I wonder what an AI specialist is. So we have one person in my team, Pin. He's an incredible data analyst, and researcher, and he's been kind of leading our efforts on AI. So I will say yes, he is an AI specialist, in the studio. So we have one.
Yeah.
You know.
And then lastly, for people in the audience that are maybe young architects, students wanting to get into computational design, maybe one day come work in your team, what are the kinds of advice you give or things you look for recruiting specialists?
Yeah. So I think I briefly mentioned before, but we really try to find people that is open to explore, to research emerging technologies, that are not afraid of jumping into a problem and try to solve it. I think it's more important for us to find someone that is resourceful than someone that is already trained into specific software, or specific programming language. Yeah. I think if we get someone that is willing to learn and it's eager to explore new stuff, I think that's a really good profile for us. You know, of course, writing is a given.
Yeah. What about for a student looking into getting into the computational side? Would you jump into Grasshopper, or delve into Python or something a bit more advanced, let's say?
I will say, I will recommend that person to think on a problem that they cannot solve using the tools they have at hand, by default. And I think that's the best tool they need to learn, whether that is, Grasshopper or something else, it doesn't really matter. It's about problem solving, not about a tool, I think.
Computational thinking, breaking
so.
stuff down into bite-sized chunks.
Yeah.
I love it.
Hi, I'm Joanna. I'm a computational designer here at Heatherwick Studio. I've been working as a computational designer here for about 2 years now. And in general, I support projects with computational geometry. So that can be anything from complex modeling to more mundane tasks that are very repetitive, but also I like to focus on sustainability and environmental analysis, as well as CFD, so that would be wind analysis for projects, and that's more of a research side of things that I like to look into.
So you spend most of your time in Ladybug, Honeybee?
Some of my time, yes.
Okay. And how did you get into the computational side? What's your background? Did you study as an architect, or did you do any kind of computational masters?
So I was quite lucky because I did my bachelor in quite standard architecture and urban design, but then I did an internship in a studio that was very computationally heavy, from quite an interesting side of things, because they were using computational design to speed up a lot of processes, and that kind of got me interested. And then we looked a lot into projects with biomimicry and this side of computational design, and at the same time there was a master's program that looked into the same like spatial experiments in extreme environments type of computational side of things. So that's kind of how it all started, and it's been quite a long time now.
Yeah.
So my name is Alfredo. I'm a computational designer at Heatherwick Studio, part of the G-Code team. We basically just work across different projects in different sizes. We are a team that just help in different really specific tasks within the projects. We just jump in and just solve from complex geometry problems to repetitive tasks, some like virtual environments, like simulations, stuff like that.
What is the G-Code team? I don't know if I missed that part.
It's the Geometry and Computation team within Heatherwick Studio. Yeah.
I like it. And how did you get into the computational side of things? Did you study it?
Well, yeah, that's a little bit of everything. So just long story short, I got really interested into the gaming world when I was back in uni. I went to a really traditional architecture school, so there wasn't much wiggle room to just play with these different technologies. So on my free spare time, I used to just like play with game engines. I started with Unity, and I just got really, really keen on just like working in these virtual environments. So I just started learning how to code a little bit in C# mostly. Then I just jumped into Grasshopper and applied to my architectural projects in school. So then just once I came to London, just had the chance just to go to uni and just specialize fully on computational design. So I just basically touched a little bit of everything. I just went into the gaming world, did a little bit of optimization, worked with complex geometries, modeling, and from that just ended up here.
The full package of everything.
Full package, yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Pin. I am part of the GCO team, Geometry and Computational department. I work as a computation specialist with a focus on machine learning and AI. And yeah.
So yeah, you're the AI guy, which is, I have to ask you a couple extra questions. I think, what excites you the most in 2024 that you can see on the horizon about AI, whether it's the diffusion side, machine learning? Is there something particularly in the AI space that interests you right now?
I think 2023, we see a kind of massive explosion of the kind of really good base model. It got to the point with both ChatGPT and Stable Diffusion XL, we got to a point that it can be used in various tasks and deployed in industry. And I think 2024 will be the year that shift towards better custom-made model and faster inference time.
Exciting times or scary times?
Yeah, both.
And how did you get into the computational side, also the AI side? Again, are you studied traditionally as an architect, or did you do anything, a specialist degree?
Actually, my entry point into artificial intelligence is from theory. I was doing my professional degree in the United States with a minor in philosophy. Okay. And then I became interested in, that was kind of 2019, I started doing my degree project. And that's when I discovered the generative adversarial network, and it's kind of hyper-flattening qualities, and it could be used to investigate biases in spatial topologies. And then I moved here to pursue a master at the Bartlett under the Interactive Architecture Lab, and I had to focus on self-robotics and human-computer interaction. And the job in Heatherwick Studio is kind of a return to the interest in machine learning, but it's always have this kind of lineage of big data either applied in spatial design or on the body.
Hi, I'm Peter Ronvari. I'm a senior computational designer at the studio. I've been here for quite a while now, over a decade. And I started as an architect. I have a more traditional kind of training. Actually, when I studied in Budapest architecture, in the first 3 years, we were not allowed to touch a computer.
Oh, yeah.
So in year 4, I couldn't wait to get started.
Released.
I was released, yeah. So my kind of specialty is just in general geometry. Mm-hmm. I'm really keen to learn and kind of discover new challenges, which we have plenty of in the studio. Yeah.
Because that's your specialism, do you find that is more connected with the making process or form finding or everything?
It's more about form finding, I think, and we kind of have to test a lot of design iterations really quickly. Yeah. So I think it's really important to get something done quickly and just find new ways of looking at things and kind of come up with unexpected results sometimes, and just embrace that or discard if it's not.
Embrace the chaos.
Yeah, exactly.
Silvia, thank you so much for joining us. Maybe it's a little bit of an introduction. I know the ATN audience already now know you from your Twinmotion masterclass, but maybe talk about your role as an immersive media specialist within Heatherwick. What is that role, and how do you work with the teams and the projects?
All right, so yeah, I am immersive media specialist at Heatherwick Studio. Normally what I do is help out teams engage with new technologies, real-time technologies, VR, AR, and optimization to be able to deliver most of their projects. So in the pipeline, we'll be using softwares like Unreal Engine, Twinmotion, Enscape, Lumen for some projects, and in general just helping out them with whatever questions they have related to new technologies.
So you've mentioned a few programs in terms of immersive. We've heard Enscape, Twinmotion, Unreal, Lumen. which ones do you use at what point and why?
So I think you have already talked to Pablo about it, but normally we use Rhino to model everything, Revit to deliver to the sections and plans and everything related to schedules. But then in both of them, we have the plugin of Enscape. So most of the teams are using Enscape to day-to-day basis. So they just have it open and then they can export quite easy iterations. If we want to import it to a better quality program, we use Twinmotion. It has a perfect and super easy user interface, so anybody can learn it quite quickly. And in their computers as well, it runs quite fast. So they are mostly using Twinmotion for that. And then if we want to deliver it to a client presentation, we import the Twinmotion model into Unreal, and then we optimize it for VR, or we export it for a 360 room if we wanted, or we put it in a gameplay if we wanted as well. So basically, Unreal Engine will help us deliver a bit more of detail in all of the projects, but that's the pipeline.
That's it. So Enscape day-to-day, Twinmotion high quality real time, and then Unreal for the big stuff.
Yeah, for the big stuff.
This is somewhat a follow-up question to that one, but how does that Twinmotion to Unreal workflow work, and at what point do you evolve from Twinmotion to Unreal?
So as I mentioned, it's super easy to learn Twinmotion. So normally I call Twinmotion the baby of Unreal. So if you really want to get into Unreal, I will recommend to use Twinmotion at the beginning. You will you will not be scared at all. You will all of these labels, they are gone. So it's super nice that most of the people here, I think almost 40% of the designers already are inducted in Twinmotion. So I am the one using Unreal mainly in the studio, so it's very helpful to receive a Twinmotion file instead of a Rhino or Enscape file that I cannot use or import into Unreal. So ideally, of course, will be to all of the projects have a Twinmotion model, when then I will receive it and just export it in whatever version of Unreal we want. So that's basically the pipeline. That was the question, right?
Yeah.
All right.
But also when you use Unreal, is it for high quality images, animation, immersive, walking around? Is there specific things you go into Unreal for?
So we normally use it for animations, for a client presentation at the end, 50% or 70 or 100, we will have always an animation. Now we're using Spaceform, which is as well run by Unreal. Right. So we will have the model all set up in Unreal, then they will help us optimize it. Then we will receive the Spaceform, and then avatars and anybody around the world will be able to jump inside the Unreal/Spaceform model and be able to experience it in VR or in desktop. And now they're gonna have it in your phone as well. So and everything is with Unreal. So I love it.
It's the future. Learn Unreal.
It's
today.
The present.
It's the present, past, and the future.
That's true.
Maybe talk about how you're using VR or AR in order to collaborate or communicate with clients or collaborators.
So at this point, we have been using VR and XR quite a lot in the projects. It has been a very good tool to understand the scale of our options of the projects. We have been using it early stages. Sometimes it's easier to understand that the scale is way out of scale if you just put on the headset and you can walk around and see it, and then you understand the human scale you can understand the human scale better. And we have been as well collaborating with Spaceform, but they have been helping us as well to use this immersive platform to present in a 360 room here in King's Cross, it's called Lightroom, and it has been impressive to be able to see the project in a wall that is 12 meters long times 26 meters tall or something like that, something ridiculously big, that if you can see it live just by projecting in the walls, you can understand perfectly the scale of it. And the client was very impressed with it. And it was a super nice collaboration that we should have in all of the projects.
Are you experimenting with augmented reality yourself as well, or is that part of your team?
And it's more Pablo's team,
Okay.
but VR is my part.
Yeah, okay. I think we're definitely very excited about Unreal at ATN. I really see it as a big part of the future. Is there anything coming on the horizon in Unreal that you're particularly excited about?
So we have been collaborating and testing out a few plugins that Unreal has. One is it's called Odyssey, that is sketching in 2D over a 3D image. That's impressive because now you already know we love hand sketching. Yeah. It's all about storytelling, and we have been disjoint a bit on what is the Unreal output with realistic view over a hand sketch mode. So using this plugin, maybe we can just merge them together and have a 3D animated fly through that is more to our illustration style than we want. So that's quite nice. As well, we have been trying out Luma, that is a 3D scanning tool using nerves, that is machine learning, so that we can 3D scan all of our models that we have here and you have seen around, and have a 3D library and arcade of our models so that we can then understand the scale of them when we want to do an exhibition or so on. So that's like two things that I'm very excited about. And the third one is we have been trying out Fortnite for Unreal, and it has been amazing to just understand how to scale down a project to just be 2 megabytes and like still look nice and understand the gameplay of it. And I will recommend everybody to use it. Again, it's free. Just jump in and try it out.
Explore. So yeah, you just mentioned you're playing with Fortnite a little bit. Can you talk about maybe what you guys utilize Fortnite for, or what you're interested in? And also, do you see more architects using Fortnite in some way to design and get their ideas out there?
So it's super easy to just have, I don't know if you have played Fortnite. I hadn't played Fortnite before I just jumped into it. But the interaction between the character and the objects around it and the space, it's already encoded inside the Unreal for Fortnite. So it's easy to just make a game by using just literally by putting an object and saying, open this object and carry it around. So you don't need too much coding on that. So if you are into gaming, and if a lot of people is into Fortnite, of course they're gonna just do a quick island and just put people inside it and just have the best time of their lives. So in our case, we want to try to import some of our projects that are already out there and see what other sort of gameplay we can add to it and understand the dynamics between the spaces and our digital avatars. Maybe not just the Fortnite gameplay, of course, not related to that, but to recreate new gameplays about it, and in an easy way possible.
Yeah, I think I've always been excited about architects getting into the gaming world. I think Fortnite kind of literally opens up that world to create levels. So who knows, in the future we might see a Heatherwick level, a big level, a Zaha level, and you can play all these different architects.
For sure. I think if we are creating a 3D world, like a physical world, why we cannot think about creating a digital world where we can inhabit or play or just do whatever, like do quests, but it's already well designed. So that's the key. Like if you have good design in the digital world and the physical world, then everything is good.
Final question for some of the audience, maybe they're young architects or professionals looking to scale up. I, for one, think Unreal is going to be a real big part of our future, but what would you advise for them to maybe get into this world of immersive media in the AEC space? Is it learn Unreal? Is it start with Twinmotion? What would you advise for people to get into this space?
Just if you are keen on learning, just go to YouTube and learn it by themselves, or go to ATN and learn it with us. But in general, if you're curious about it, do something. Learn. Everything is for free out there. So just ask questions. Ask. All the team is very keen on answering any sort of questions. Just understand that everything is possible in general. Like they will need architects in the gaming industry. As architects as well, we will need game developers to be able to help us out. So it's very blurred, the lines of your job at this point. And that's good. Like I have a very classic architectural background. And then I came here to the UK. I was always involved into gaming as well. And then I learned about soft robotics and architectural to the body, nothing related to gaming, but I understood that as well. I could jump into in the medical industry if I want as an architect. So just pursue your dreams in general. Like if you want it, search how to, whatever, everything is there, and do it. It's just encourage yourself to do it.
Just like the Nike slogan, just do it.
Just do it.
All right, that wraps up our tour here at the amazing Heatherwick Studio. Huge thanks to Pablo and all of Pablo's team. This has been an epic tour. I'm still in awe. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and stay tuned for our next ArchiTech tour.